Chapter 385. Hearing that secret from her boyfriend, Yenjika was obviously stunned for a moment. Then she squinted her eyes at him, feeling both angry and amused. She mouthed, "Hooligan. Why is Ching flirting all of a sudden? It's so embarrassing to do that in front of so many people. Could it be that it was just like what was written in the books, that men would become more excited after a fierce fight, and their hormones would also increase?" While Yenjika was seriously thinking about the academic problem, Lu Qing added with a smile, "I'm so attracted by the little fairy who is giving me courage. I want to kiss you so much." Oh. Yenjika suddenly understood. She felt shy and happy. She glanced at him and said with a smile, "Then you can think about it." Just think about it? Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. He almost couldn't help but steal a kiss. However, when he quickly looked around, he found that all the cameras were aimed at him. They were taking pictures of the winner, so he had to force himself to hold back. In the seats of the Martial Arts Club of Huahai University, and Chaoyang looked at the depressed Piao Yuan and the others and then looked at Xing Jingjing who was walking back with her head down. He sighed and clapped his hands. He forced a smile and said, "Why do you look like we've been eliminated? Losing to Songqing University is not the end of the world. We still have a chance. What if we get Guangnan in the quarterfinals? We have a 1/3 chance to get them. Besides, even if we get Shanbei or the capital, we are not doomed to lose. There is still some hope. Anyway, we have no other choice. We have to fight with our backs to the wall and burn our boats." Hearing Senior An's words and thinking that he would leave the martial arts club after this year's competition, Piao Yuan, Zhang Dongliang and the others were excited again. After they looked at each other, they shouted in unison, "Let's go. Fight with our backs to the wall." Xing Jingjing stood a little further away and didn't shout so fiercely. But her eyes were obviously shaking and her fists were clenched. In the live broadcast room, the host Lu Chang said with emotion, "Congratulations to Songqing University for making it to the quarterfinals. I also wish Huahai University a bloody road and go further. This is martial arts. Everyone is growing. No one will be treated with respect just because they won the championship." Chen Sanqing also sighed. "I didn't expect In Chaoyang to say goodbye to this competition and the martial arts circle in this way." Lu Chang was surprised. "You can't say that. What if Huahai gets Guangnan? They still have a chance. I believe that even if they get Shanbei or the capital, I believe they still have a chance. But what will happen after that? Will they have more injuries? How much will they consume? How much will they be able to recover in the semi-finals?" Chen Sanqing said. Hearing this, Chen Sanqing smiled bitterly. "I want to tell you the truth. Although this may hurt the feelings of the students of Huahai, the truth is the truth. Huahai has done a good job in building the echelon. Strong martial artists have appeared one after another. However, there is a saying that goes, born at the wrong time. Peng Liyun and Ren Li are only juniors. Lu Cheng and Lin Ke are only sophomores. For Piao Yuan, Xing Jingjing, and Zhang Dongliang, they were born at the wrong time. If it were a few years ago, or a few years later, they would have enough strength and qualifications to become shining stars in the martial arts circle in the university. But in recent years, the 9 sons have been competing with each other. There is no room for them to shine." Lu Chang sighed. "This reminds me of a saying. Forget it. I won't say it. Of course, one's destiny depended on one's own efforts. However, one also had to consider the course of history. Piao Yuan and Xing Jingjing had encountered a very good but also very cruel era. Fortunately, there were people to compare with, to be role models, to pass on their experiences, and to sharpen their skills. The university martial arts circle was on the rise. Many martial artists who originally had no hope of entering the professional competition were stimulated and gained a lot. They improved by more than one step and thus changed their fate. The cruel thing was that they were always a foil. Well, no matter what, I wish Fu and Chaoyang the best. I wish him to create more glory on the road of life, Chen Sanqing said sincerely. Chen Sanqing said sincerely, and the combination of Lu Cheng and Lin Ke has fully demonstrated their strength. They are the real favorites to win the championship, the third favorite after Shanbei and the capital. Lu Cheng chuckled and said, I can't wait to know the situation of the draw for the top 8. That would determine the matchups of the semi-finals. Just thinking about it made one's blood boil. We have to wait for 2 days. Anyway, congratulations to Songqing University for being the first in the group and entering the top 8. Chen Sanqing clenched his fist and waved. And Lu Cheng deserves the title of Heavenly Son. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling posted a celebratory post. The battle of writing the fame. Before she could get to the sofa, Brahman sent up firecracker emoji. Win, win, win. Can't you post more thoughts? All the good names are taken by dogs, replied with the same emoji. Win, 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 win. Double. At upstairs, I've helped you press the coffin of your math teacher, Unparalleled Dragon King joked. Yan Shaoling made a cough emoji. Quiet, quiet. Everyone, quiet down. Those who drive cars and dance, calm down. Let's ask the frontline cat reporter, Little Gao, to send a first-hand report. Oh, I'm so excited that I'm hungry. I have to think carefully about what to eat in the dormitory. Don't you know how to order takeout? Road to the arena, asked in surprise. I have to go get takeout. Yan Shaoling expressed that she was lazy. I don't understand teenage girls like you. Road to the arena sent a sigh emoji. At this time, many cats posted a post. Lu Cheng and Lin Ke just finished the post-match interview and went into the bathroom to take a shower. Along with the shower, a song floated out. The mountain road here has 18 bends. I'll tell you who sang it. I'll keep it a secret for Lu Cheng, who doesn't want to reveal his real name. Otherwise, he'll be beaten up. In the previous interview, Lin Ke only used 3 words to answer all the questions. Yes, no, that's a new record. To be honest, I really miss his interaction with reporter Shu. Coach Sher is on the phone with someone. He's beaming with joy and holding his head high. Senior Yen is playing with her phone with a beautiful smile. Maybe she's peeking at you guys. She has a special ointment beside her. She's waiting for Lu Cheng to come out and show off his love. Don't ask why cats have dog eyes. Senior Sun Jian and Senior Li Mao are excitedly discussing the possible opponents for the quarterfinals, who will be on the field, and how to use the broadcasting bonus. The National University Martial Arts competition attracted a lot of attention. The copyright fee was more than the professional preliminaries. The teams that didn't make it to the quarterfinals would be able to cover their expenses such as air tickets, accommodation, and food. Once they made it to the quarterfinals, they would get more money. As for how much they would get, it would depend on their final ranking. After talking about them, what about you? Asked Unparalleled Dragon King with a snicker emoji. Many cats replied, blushing expression, I'm organizing my shopping cart. I'm just waiting for the money. After the competition, in order to celebrate the first place in the group and to prepare for the quarterfinals, Geezer Sher waved his hand and announced that tomorrow was a holiday. Everyone could relax. Tonight, they would eat crayfish for supper. After eating and drinking, it was almost 10:30 p.m. Lu Cheng stood at the door of Yan Zhika's room and said goodnight to her. The short noise from before was still echoing in the hallway. Talker didn't come up? Yan Zhika asked casually, as if she didn't want to go back to her room. His girlfriend is coming to visit. He has to kneel at the door and wait. Lu Cheng teased little Ming. After chatting for a while, Yan Zhika looked at her watch and smiled. Why aren't you sleeping? The effect of sedative fluid is not as good as deep sleep. Okay. Lu Cheng rubbed his swollen temples. Seeing other people passing by in the hallway, he calmed down and waved goodbye. When he was about to turn around, he saw Yan Zhika turn her head and look to the side. She said in a very low voice, "Didn't you say you want to kiss me?" Chapter 386. When Huahai was selected, the match between Guangnan and Juku was also confirmed. Netizens who were watching the live broadcast commented on it, either on the bullet screen or on Weibo. "I feel that Shanbei is at an advantage. Yeah, no matter who wins between Capital and Songqing University, they must have fought to the limit. Not to mention whether anyone is injured, the fatigue caused by it can't be recovered in 2 or 3 days. Don't say that. Capital and Songqing University are only facing each other. The other opponents are not too strong. Shanbei is going to fight Huahai and Guangnan in a row. It's hard to say whose match schedule is better. I'm looking forward to the match between Shanbei and Huahai. Peng Liyun didn't fight seriously in the previous matches. This time we can finally know what level he is at. If they want to skip the quarterfinals, I want to see Ren Li and Lu Cheng." In the chaos, the odds of the lottery company changed. Shanbei's odds were lower, indicating that people were more optimistic about them. Capital and Songqing University's odds were higher, but they were still lower than Guangnan's. Huahai's odds had skyrocketed, and they were no longer the favorite to win the championship. Everyone's expectations and predictions could be seen from a narrow view of the Big Leopard. At 10:20 that night, Lu Qing watched the recent matches of Jinfeng University Martial Arts Club in Yan Zhika's room and browsed through the latest comments and analysis. Then he was driven out by the girl and went back to his room. After washing up and lying on the bed, Lu Qing tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. He felt empty, lonely, and cold. Ever since they had a breakthrough in their relationship that day, he wanted to control himself so that he wouldn't affect Ku's state of mind. He didn't want their relationship to be exposed and she would be pointed at behind her back. But every night, he couldn't help but stay behind. Sometimes, when there was no one in the corridor, he would sneak away. Then, he would inevitably have a good time. He was exceptionally satisfied. Even if he stopped at the last moment, Lu Qing began to doubt his self-control that he was proud of. Why did he insist on getting up at 5:30 every day to do morning exercises, to abstain from smoking and drinking, and to do so many things? Why couldn't he control himself when it came to Little Fairy? Maybe it's because Ku's charm is too great. Maybe it's because I like her too much. Lu Cheng's thoughts drifted, and a smile unconsciously appeared on his face. Thinking back, apart from the experience of reading books and watching movies, the first time he experienced something substantial between a man and a woman, the one that left the deepest impression on him, the one that made him crazy with excitement, was actually related to Ku. Because of this, she left a mark in his heart, in his bones, one after another, gradually increasing. People always say that the first time is unforgettable and unforgettable, but I have experienced too many firsts with Ku. Overwhelmed with emotions, Lu Qing abruptly picked up his phone and sent a message to Yan Zhika. "I'm thinking that my first love is you." How nice. Yan Zhika didn't need to get up early at 5:30. She was browsing the forum on her phone when she suddenly saw the message. She couldn't help but purse her lips. She was surprised, happy, and a little smug. She typed quickly and replied to Lu Cheng's message, "It's already past time. Why aren't you sleeping?" "Humph, don't think that you can make me dizzy just because you suddenly say some words of love. I can't sleep without my little fairy hugging me." Lu Qing pretended to be pitiful and said. Yan Zhika was annoyed but smiled. She gritted her teeth and sent a message, "Conceal your spirit and qi, meditate, and sleep deeply." Lu Qing smiled. Just as he was about to reply, "Yes, Coach Yan," he saw the girl's second message coming one after another. Come over, come over. You can't do anything except sleep." Lu Qing opened his mouth slightly. At first he was surprised, then he was pleasantly surprised. He lifted the quilt and directly jumped out of bed. In the girl's room, Yan Zhika suddenly turned sideways and rubbed her slightly hot face into the pillow. Then she sent the third message that she had just typed. She sent an upright and handsome expression of a mythical beast and said, "Sister is pitying you. Sister is so nice." Lu Qing replied shamelessly. He took the martial arts suit for tomorrow morning and opened the door. After looking around, he slipped to the girl's room. Instead of knocking, he sent a message saying, "I'm here." That night, Lu Qing controlled himself. He hugged Yenjika and whispered sweet nothings to her for a while before falling asleep. Yenjika, on the other hand, was new to human affairs. She preferred this kind of intimacy over physical contact. The next morning, before dawn, Lu Qing woke up on time and found that Ku was using him as a pillow. Not only was she hugging him tightly, but she also put one of her legs across and pressed on him. Her body temperature was touching, her skin was delicate, and her fragrance was tempting. Lu Qing took a full 3 minutes to gather the will to get up. He gently removed the girl's leg and broke free from her hug. He quietly climbed up, not wanting to wake her up. However, Yenjika, who had lost the warm and reliable embrace, still woke up in a daze. She blinked her black, long, and thick eyelashes and looked at her boyfriend with slightly unfocused and innocent eyes. The faint light from outside the window dyed her with the glow of dawn. Everything was like a classic black and white photo. Lu Qing memorized this scene in his mind. He bent down and kissed the girl's slightly pouty lips. Her warm and sweet breath assailed his nostrils as her soft and smooth tongue entered his mouth. He enjoyed his girlfriend's initiative. After a while, Yenjika shrank back and separated their lips. Her eyes were still blurred as she encouraged him casually, "Don't worry about me. Practice well. Make money to support the family." Pfft. Lu Qing laughed and kissed the girl's forehead again. He said in a low voice, "Okay." After changing his clothes, Lu Qing opened the door and walked out. When he walked in the empty corridor, the scene just now flashed in his mind and he couldn't help but laugh again. Make money to support the family. He murmured this sentence with a gentle and bright smile on his face. His footwork became firmer and firmer as he walked from the darkness to the sunrise. After 2 days, at 7:00 in the evening of the third day, the martial arts arena of the capital city was packed again. The quarterfinals of the National University Martial Arts competitions were about to begin. Today, there were 2 matches in the first half. Lu Qing and the others had already arrived by bus. They even met the students of the Capital College at the side entrance. They saw Renli and Chindigua. They didn't talk to each other and just nodded at each other from a distance. Every time I see Renli, I feel incredible. How can such a doll-like girl be so powerful? Yenjika didn't hide her feelings. Renli's appearance was delicate with big eyes, long straight hair. As the saying goes, you can't judge a book by its cover. And the more beautiful something is, the more dangerous it is. I remember there was a very beautiful jellyfish or something. It was super poisonous. Lu Qing said casually. Before his voice died away, he suddenly felt something was wrong. He felt Little Ming's teasing gaze. He hurried to whisper in his girlfriend's ear, "Except for Little Fairy." Seeing Yenjika didn't believe him, he changed his excuse. "Besides, I have the strength of professional sixth pin, but you are still the head of our family. This means you are more powerful than me." He deliberately emphasized the words, "our family." Yenjika snorted with a slight smile in her eyes. She didn't want to talk about it and changed the topic. "The substitutes of the Capital College are very strong, even stronger than Shanbei." Yeah, if Penglian wasn't so strong, the Capital College would have won at least one championship in the past 2 years. Lu Qing echoed. Renli, the leading member of the martial arts club of the Capital College, was a heavenly son on par with Penglian. Chindigua, a senior, was a real professional 7th pin. Jiang Kongchan, a sophomore, had stepped into the dance stage after the new year. Shin Yu, a junior, was considered very likely to succeed Chindigua and become the second leading member. However, he had a tragic car accident at the beginning of last year. His brain was injured and his vision in his left eye was damaged, so he couldn't make a breakthrough until today. He was still a top professional 9th pin fighter, so he had to focus on the martial arts club and the unreliable president, Ren Li. In addition, Jiang Jingfeng, a senior, was also a professional eighth pin in the dance stage. While talking, the members of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club entered the locker room to prepare for the next match. According to the order of the draw, the first match was between Songqing University and Jinfeng. Although Jinfeng entered the national competition as the first place in their division, they were weaker than Hudong. The fourth-year leading member, Wei Rong, was only at the level of a weak 7th rank. The other leading member, the third-year Gao Xingli, was only at the level of a professional 8th pin. However, he practiced the Iron Mantle type of martial arts, so his combat strength was not bad and could be considered a strong 8th pin. Their other leading member was the top professional 9th pin Lu Chunlai. Therefore, no matter how one compared them, Jinfeng was not a match for the combination of Yu Ji and Han Peipei. Geyser looked around and suddenly said, "Boy Lin, take a break for this match." What? Lu Cheng and the others were surprised. Although Jinfeng was not strong, they didn't need to be so careless. What if they failed? Before Lin K could object, Geyser added, "The following matches are relatively tight. You can only take a break for the next match in the Capital College in the best condition. As for Jinfeng, that brat can defeat 3 Hudong fighters at the same time. Why would he be afraid of this? If he dares to lose, you can go back and talk to him. Well, the schedule is tight, and fatigue will accumulate. But the problem is that I have the Zhe formula. The Zhe formula can help my brother-in-law recover in seconds." Lu Cheng was more and more confused. "My master is very clear about this." Well, is he putting up a smokescreen? With this break in the fierce battle with the Capital College, Shanbei will naturally infer that my brother-in-law can't participate in the final match in the best condition. In fact, this is not the case. The Capital College hasn't even fought yet, and my master is already planning for the final match? Lu Qing vaguely understood. He glanced at Yan Zhika and found that she was thinking about something while Lin K remained silent. Geyser saw this and said with a smile, "Jinfeng won't have any hope of defeating us. They will try to let their leading members play more matches. We will do the same. Brat, you take the field. Kai Zongming, you go first, Li Mao second." "Me?" Little Ming pointed at himself in surprise and joy. Chapter 387. Faced with Kai Zongming's overjoyed question, Geyser nodded slightly and said, "Experience it well." "Okay." Little Ming almost burst into tears. After waiting for so long, did he finally have a chance to start the match? According to Coach Shi, Jinfeng's team was probably ranked from weakest to strongest. If he stunned them with his verbal cannon, he might be able to easily defeat Lu Chunlai, who was also a professional 9th pin fighter, and get the first kill. He would show off in front of Fang Yuan. Lu Qing saw that Yan Zhika was a little disappointed, so he secretly pulled her hand and said in a low voice, "He wants you to prepare for the capital with all your strength." To challenge the capital, it was impossible to rely only on himself and his brother-in-law. The other team member had to fight to the limit to have a chance of winning. And among all the substitutes, Ku was still the strongest. "I hope so." Yan Zhika replied in a low voice. She was looking forward to the semi-finals and envious of Kai Zongming and Li Mao who were about to enter the arena. In the locker room of Jinfeng University Martial Arts Club, Wei Rong, the leader with dyed blonde hair, looked at Coach Zheng Fei. Seeing that he didn't say anything, he simply patted the surface of the bench and said to Gao Xingli, Lu Chunlai, and the others, "Everyone is not very confident in this match." "Huh, me too. I know my place." Anyone with eyes can see the performance of Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. Since that's the case, let's not think about miracles. Let's just set a small goal. Gao Xingli's skin was dark and his whole body seemed to be made of iron. After hearing Wei Rong's words, he asked doubtfully, "What small goal?" At this time, Zheng Fei, who had the temperament of a scholar, smiled and said, "Songqing University will most likely let one of their substitutes fight first to train and accumulate actual combat experience. Then it will be Lu Cheng." He will try to defeat us in one go and not let Lin Ke fight. He will save his strength to face the capital. Then our small goal is to not let Lu Qing fight 1 against 3? Gao Xingli asked again. Isn't it easy to not let Lu Qing fight 1 against 3? Lu Chunlai, who was good at ridiculing, laughed and said, if we lose to Songqing University's substitute, Lu Qing can only fight 1 against 2. From a logical point of view, there was no problem. After rolling his eyes at Lu Chunlai, Wei Rong took a deep breath and stood up. I hope the 3 of us can defeat Lu Qing in a tag team battle. The chances are slim, but it's not impossible. Lu Qing still has to consider the semifinals, so he won't fight too hard. I think he'll quit while he's ahead. Sheng, you fight in the first match. Try to defeat Songqing University's substitute as quickly as possible. Try to maintain your peak condition and challenge Lu Qing. Use the method of injury for injury to fight against him. Fight against his conservative mentality. Good. Gao Xingli spoke with a faint metallic voice. Wei Rong pointed at himself and said, I'll be the second one to go up, followed by Lu Qing. Chunlai, you'll be the last one to finish up. I hope you can see some hope of winning. No problem. Lu Chunlai didn't feel any pressure. After the name list was submitted, Jin Feng and the others pushed open the door to the locker room and walked to their seats. Before they could sit down, they heard a burst of noise from all around, as if a tide was about to come. Songqing University's group of people came out of the locker room. Wei Rong and Gao Xingli looked at each other. At the same time, they had a deep understanding of what was called unequal treatment. What greeted them just now was only sparse applause and the sound of trumpets. After a short pause, they knew that Songqing University's main roster wasn't Lin Ke's name. Aren't they looking down on us too much? The veins on Wei Rong's forehead throbbed, and his voice involuntarily rose. Songqing University actually let their second leading general go? Were they confident that Lu Qing could hold back 10,000 people? Yes, he was very powerful. He was almost on par with Ren Li and Peng Lian. He had a small chance of defeating their own team, but it wasn't a 100% guarantee. They were looking down on us too much. What did they think we were? Fish belly? The anger of being looked down on emerged in the hearts of everyone in Jinfeng University's martial arts club. After looking at each other, Wei Rong glanced at the waving referee and said to Gao Xingli, how can you bear this? Jinfeng City was the location of the Guanwei League, and the martial arts atmosphere was very strong. Men had the concept of losing, but not losing. No. Gao Xingli clenched his teeth and replied. Then go fight. Then go all out. Finish the first 2 as soon as possible. Wei Rong clenched his fist and shook it. Gao Xingli's iron mantle technique was more suitable for bullying the weak. With him as the vanguard, it was just right. In the Songqing University Martial Arts Club's seating area, after Li Xiaowen passed on Jinfeng's roster, Kai Zhongming's mouth was half open. He was stunned and subconsciously turned to Gizershi. Didn't you say that Jinfeng would go from weak to strong? What happened to the professional 9th pin Lu Chunlai? What happened to taking the first clear and showing off? Thinking of the Jinfeng video and Gao Xingli's image of a chimpanzee, student Xiaoming couldn't help but shiver. It was as if he had returned to the past, to the bloody history of being ravaged by the former president, Qin Zhanghua, another chimpanzee. Gizershi didn't even lift his eyelids. I just said it casually. Do you really need to analyze it seriously to fight Jinfeng? Lu Qing held back his laughter and patted Talker's shoulder. With a solemn expression, he said, my condolences. It's time to go on stage. The referee is signaling. Kai Zhongming glanced at the ring and blurted out, how should we fight? Make good use of the conversation time. Lu Qing gave a sincere suggestion. Knock him out with words and then seize the opportunity? Student Xiaoming asked thoughtfully. No, what I mean is, make good use of the conversation time and have some fun. At least you can take advantage of him verbally, right? Lu Qing chuckled. For a person like Talker, the more you comfort the more useless it is. Just a few words of sarcasm is enough. Kai Zongming was like a terminally ill person who heard the doctor's advice to eat more good food. His heart went cold and he felt less burdened. He looked at Lu Qing with disdain. I, Kai Ritian, am going to defy the heavens. Not bad. You're in a good state. Lu Qing praised. Kai Zongming reached out his right hand and punched everyone one by one. Finally, he punched Lu Cheng's shoulder and walked up the stone steps with the attitude of wind blowing and water freezing. He stepped into the ring and stood in the center. He looked at Gao Xingli, whose eyes were filled with anger. His mind raced as he thought of a strategy. The referee waited for the electronic clock to hit the hour. He raised his hand and said, "Conversation time starts now." Kai Zongming glanced at his opponent weakly and said sincerely, "We're not looking down on Jin Feng. We're just taking a risk to enter the finals." Gao Xingli had never met anyone who used conversation time to explain something like that. He was momentarily stunned and didn't know how to respond. Kai Zongming continued, minding his own business. "Capital is very strong. We have to use every ounce of strength and squeeze every ounce of potential out of them to have a chance of winning. Lin Ke doesn't have abnormal stamina like Lu Qing. He can't be full of energy after a day of rest. So we can only let him rest this round and face Capital in peak condition." That makes sense. Gao Xingli thought carefully and couldn't help but nod slightly. Kai Zongming maintained a sincere attitude. "We know that Lin Ke resting will make this round uncertain. But in order to win Capital, we can only do this and take a risk. It's not that we're looking down on you guys," he laughed bitterly. "We're walking a tightrope." Seeing him speak so sincerely and politely, and mocking his choice, Gao Xingli's anger was extinguished little by little. He put down his guard and nodded slightly. "If it were us, we'd probably do the same. After all, Lu Cheng has the strength to fight 1 against 3. Hearing this, Kai Zongming laughed and said as if he regretted not having met him earlier, "And this is also a chance for us, the substitutes, to see what it's like to be the weak against the strong, to see how powerful the iron shirt of the dance stage is. Otherwise, if we put Lin Ke in the position of holding the field, there's a big chance that he won't have to compete, right?" This guy's words are very pleasant to hear. Gao Xingli's heart warmed. He looked at Kai Zongming's eyes and said modestly, "It's not as good as Golden Bell Cover, Vajra Unbreakable Divine Art, Immortal Flesh, Jade Formula, etc. It's all the same to me. Anyway, they can't break my defense." Kai Zongming seemed to use the conversation time as an opportunity to chat, making Gao Xingli's mood better. In the end, he deliberately looked around and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry. Actually, the coach has another reason for sending me on the field, and that is to polish and train. Why did he choose me and not the other substitutes?" "Well, you've seen my information and previous fighting videos, right?" "I know some information, but I've only seen 2 videos." Gao Xingli said frankly. "I only officially joined the special training team last February. Before that, I was just fishing in 3 days and drying the net. After many years of martial arts training, I'm still only of amateur 5th pin." Kai Zongming sighed and looked proud. "After 9 months of special training, I reached professional 9th pin from amateur 5th pin. Now, look at my chi and blood. I'm strong 9th pin, right?" "Yes, you've only been practicing martial arts for 1 year and 2 months?" Gao Xingli was a little surprised. When he looked at the information, he only paid attention to the opponent's current level and didn't explore the story behind his growth. This kid's talent is not bad. Is this the reason why their coach sent him on the field to polish him? Yes, so I still have some talent. Kai Zongming smiled. This is one of the reasons why our coach thinks highly of me. He glanced at the electronic clock and coughed twice. The other reason is, while Gao Xingli was concentrating on the answer, the referee suddenly raised his right hand and swung it down. Begin. The conversation time was over. What was the other reason? He had a supernatural ability. He had a talent for fighting. Encountering a cliffhanger, Gao Xingli couldn't control his imagination for a moment. At this time, Kai Zongming had already closed his mouth. Using his spine as a bow and his legs as a bowstring, he shot out like lightning. With just a pounce and a step, he was in front of his opponent. Bam! Kai Zongming's shoulders exploded with strength. His right hand stretched out, 5 fingers flicked, and directly grabbed Gao Xingli's eyes. No matter how powerful the iron mantle was, it still had a weak spot. At the same time, he clamped his tailbone, tightened his thighs, and kicked his right leg between his opponent's legs. Up and down kick. At this time, Gao Xingli suddenly realized that Kai Zongming had deliberately stopped there to distract him and create a good opportunity for a sneak attack. His previous sincerity, respect, and politeness were all an act. He only said those words to make her lower her guard. With a boom, Gao Xingli's heart burned with anger. The anger from being deceived, the anger from being treated with kindness, and the anger from being insulted. He actually thought he was a good person. He thought he was sincere and not bad. Gao Xingli fiercely twisted his waist, using his thighs to block his opponent's kick. He lowered his head and aimed his forehead at his opponent's finger. Dong! Kai Zongming kicked his opponent's bulging thighs. It was as if he had kicked an iron plate. His 5 fingers suddenly softened, changing from a grab to a press. After pushing Gao Xingli's forehead, he used the force to rebound and quickly retreated. The angry Gao Xingli didn't even think about it. He gathered his qi and blood, exploded his dantian, and with a crack, fiercely pounced on his opponent. Kai Zongming had just stabilized his footing and had already flicked his spine, forcibly changing his direction. He narrowly avoided his opponent's fierce pounce. Of course, his opponent was still in front of him. When he was on the stage, he had already thought it through. It was impossible for him to win against an 8th pin dan stage martial artist with iron mantle. Therefore, his goal was to exhaust most of his physical strength. In order to achieve this goal, he had to provoke his opponent and not let him have time to calm down. This depended on the design of the dialogue. It just so happens that I'm very good at this. Come hit me. Student Little Ming's thoughts flashed through his mind. Chapter 388. Bam! Just as Kai Zongming dodged the fierce attack, Gao Xingli used the rebounding force to turn around. He twisted his waist and threw out a punch. Although he was angry, he still had the most basic understanding. He could only complete the double explosion. He couldn't do it unless it was the most critical moment. Kai Zongming felt the wind blow as soon as he changed direction. He didn't have time to dodge. His thigh muscles and calves twisted inwards. He twisted his feet horizontally and sent a drilling force to the ground. Crack! The ground sank. Kai Zongming's legs straightened. His waist and back tightened. He suddenly raised his right arm and threw a powerful punch at his opponent's attack. Moving mountain fist. This was a fist technique famous for its strength. Gizershi first taught it to Guoqing to complement her innate strength. Unfortunately, after Guoqing mastered it, her strength improved quickly. However, she still couldn't compare to others. She was also attacked by the new members of the martial arts club. She was disheartened and her hopes were dashed. She chose to withdraw from the special training team. She withdrew, but this fist technique was still practiced by everyone. This was because they had almost mastered the 24 blizzard strikes. They had to find something new to make up for their lack of skills. Bang! The 2 fists, which were known for their strength, collided in mid-air, making a muffled sound. Kai Zongming's realm was lower after all, so he felt like he was being pressed down by Mount Tai. His arm bounced back, and his feet took a step back. He had to use this to reduce his strength. Otherwise, his stance would be broken. Crack! Where he landed, a spider web spread out and formed. Good retreat. Gao Xingli gritted his teeth and shouted. In order to seize the opportunity, he didn't have time to stop. He pushed his right foot and leaned to one side. He immediately rushed forward aggressively and exploded the airflow. Facing this, Kai Zongming didn't have his usual slickness. He knew that since ancient times, there was only one way. He quickly gathered his courage and advanced instead of retreating. He just landed on the ground with his right foot. His ankle shook, his leg straightened, and his fascia tightened. He drove his body to one side and rushed forward like lightning. Bang! The two bodies collided in a very short distance. Shoulder to shoulder, arm to arm. Open! Gao Xingli roared. His iron-like muscles swelled, and he directly knocked Kai Zongming back. Comparing strength with mine, you are still far from it. Thump. Thump. Although Kai Zongming was retreating, he had neutralized most of his opponent's strength by attacking without dodging. He retreated in an orderly manner. As soon as Gao Xingli succeeded, he immediately slid forward and attacked the enemy continuously. While he was down, he would take his life. Kai Zongming took 2 steps back. Seeing the opponent coming at him, his heart tightened. He couldn't care about anything else. He bent his waist and pulled back his arm, making a backhand flip. Pa! Pa! When he did a backflip, he raised both his feet and kicked the area between the enemy's legs. Gao Xingli was in too much of a hurry, so he didn't have time to change directions. He could only pause to one side, letting the wind blow past his crotch. Then, he regained his momentum and closed in on his opponent. Kai Zongming, on the other hand, did a backhand flip to catch the falling bullet. His body shot out horizontally, narrowly avoiding the chain of attacks and once again pulling apart the distance between them. In this exchange, Gao Xingli had many better choices. But in his impatience, the faster he wanted to win, the harder it was for him to win. Student Little Ming, who had dodged a bullet, didn't forget his own expectations. While he was busy, he raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a deep mocking smile. Stupid beyond cure. You've been fooled, haven't you? Seeing Kai Zongming smile from the corner of his eye, Gao Xingli tried to suppress his anger. His mind buzzed and was completely occupied by a red color. I've never seen such a provocative person. Pa! With a crisp shattering sound, Gao Xingli withdrew and released his qi. His 2 thighs suddenly became thick and strong. His whole body was covered with a strong wind. With a whoosh, he was in front of his opponent. In a flash, Kai Zongming slid forward and dodged the front. Pa! Gao Xingli did another, force concentration. His qi and blood exploded. His left leg swelled and violently kicked out. Double explosion. Right now, there was only one thought in his mind: if I can't beat you in a few moves, then it's my loss. Gao Xingli's side kick was fast and fierce. Kai Zongming was powerless to dodge. He quickly lowered his center of gravity, shook his arms, and blocked in front of his lower abdomen. Bang! With one kick, under the brute force of the dance stage explosion, Kai Zongming's stance fell apart and his body flew out. Thump thump thump. Without waiting for him to land, Gao Xingli rushed up in a few steps. He swung his shoulders, stretched out his right hand, and grabbed his shoulder. He pulled it back and bent his elbow upward. At this moment, the referee extended his palm and blocked his elbow joint. He used his strength to separate the two people. Then he raised his right hand and loudly shouted, "First round, Gao Xingli wins." Hearing this, Gao Xingli was delighted. He felt that he had won back some face. He didn't need many moves to defeat that hateful guy. But after he came to his senses, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Relying on his iron shirt's ability to resist attacks, relying on the various advantages of the dance stage, and not using force concentration, he had a high chance of defeating his opponent. But now, not only did I use the dance stage explosion, I also used double explosion. What was I doing just now? Seeing the change in his expression, Kai Zongming felt a lot better. He felt that although he didn't show off, he had completed his IQ and verbal superiority. He had won in another way. He exhaled, hummed a little song to himself, and was about to turn around and leave the arena. At this time, Gao Xingli, who was in front of him, opened his mouth and asked, "What's the second reason?" Regarding this matter, he had always been brooding. He was eager to know the answer. No matter if the other party was lying to him or if there was a real reason, there had to be an explanation. Otherwise, it would be like a bad ending in a novel or a TV series that was cut in half. Kai Zongming was startled. His eyes flashed a few times. He imitated someone and smiled. "It's a secret. Personal secret, no comment." Gao Xingli glared. If the referee hadn't blocked in front of him, he would have pounced on him. Ha ha ha. Kai Zongming laughed secretly. He leisurely walked down the stone steps and returned to the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats. Seeing this, Li Mao stood up abruptly. There was only excitement in his eyes, no sign of nervousness. That was because he had Lu Cheng as his solid backing. Suddenly, Geyser tilted his head and reminded him with a smile, "When you enter the arena, you can walk a little slower." Walk a little slower? Shouldn't he enter the arena as soon as possible and not give Gao Xingli more time to recover? Li Mao was puzzled and asked, Why? Think about it yourself. It depends on your understanding. Geyser kept him in suspense. Li Mao frowned and walked forward. He forgot to bump fists with Lu Cheng and subconsciously followed the coach's instructions and slowed down. When he met Kai Zongming halfway and saw the other party's right hand, he put away his doubts and asked curiously, "What did you just say? Why is Gao Xingli so angry?" Clap. He and Little Ming high-fived. Hee, this is not something that can be explained in 2 or 3 sentences. I'll tell you later. Kai Zongming smiled proudly and didn't look depressed. Senior Li Mao, hurry up. He's depressed because of what I said. There's still a lot of anger left. Okay. Li Mao had just answered when he suddenly remembered Geyser's instructions. This was completely opposite to Kai Zongming's suggestion. Walking a little slower is to give Gao Xingli time to calm down. When he's no longer angry and has time, he should reflect on the battle just now, right? After reflecting on it, would he subconsciously make the opposite choice of fighting style? This is very likely. When normal people encounter similar situations, they will most likely do the same. After all, when things reach an extreme, they will only do the opposite. Once bitten, twice shy. What's more, only a few seconds and a little more than a minute have passed. In other words, Gao Xingli will be cautious and conservative. He won't use force concentration again. This is my chance. With a clear mind, Li Mao looked at Gao Xingli in the center of the ring and slowed down again. While waiting, Gao Xingli adjusted his breath and deeply regretted his previous anger. Didn't he say to save Kai Zongming and Li Mao and save most of his energy to wear down Lu Cheng? In the end, he actually used up more than half of his Dan stage explosion on a nobody. Vaguely, he could imagine Senior Wei's disappointed eyes and Lu Chunlai's private complaints. He felt bad and decided to make up for it from the second round onwards. I can still beat a professional 9th pin fighter with just Iron Mantle. Kai Zongming returned to his seat with a proud face. He looked at Lu Cheng and said, I found that Gao Xingli explodes at the slightest touch. Quick. Hurry up and ask me how I provoked him. How could Lu Cheng not understand him? He only laughed and said, I think it's because you're too cheap. You belong to the category of people with negative supernatural abilities. Yeah, you have the aura of, I want to beat you up when I see you. Hey, do you know how hard I work? Every time, I have to put in a lot of effort to control the primordial force that wants to beat you up. Kai Zongming looked at him from the corner of his eyes. He was angry and amused at the same time. Next time, let's perform a crosstalk. Chapter 389. Army. The deep voice echoed in Wei Rong's ears. Wei Rong suddenly felt that the surroundings were filled with smoke and the atmosphere was tragic. It was as if he was ambushed from all sides. Moreover, there was a sharp blade on his neck. The sharpness penetrated through his body, causing goosebumps to appear on his skin. Just as he was about to lose his mind, Lu Cheng's qi, blood, spirit, and force reverberated, contracted, and then burst out. Crack! With a quick pounce, he crossed the distance of 7 to 8 meters and arrived in front of Wei Rong. He then raised his arm and made a downward slashing motion. In his mind, there was a surging river that froze everything. Even the waves that contained powerful kinetic energy were frozen in midair. Bam! The thunderclouds shook. Lu Qing threw a punch. Severe warning. Only then did Wei Rong manage to recover from his fear. He saw a fist with white and black colors growing bigger and bigger. It quickly occupied his vision and the whole world in front of him. Not good. He didn't have time to dodge or make a dance stage explosion. He could only pull his fascia and raise his arm to block. Bam! Wei Rong's arms were cold. His mind was frozen and his vision went black. By the time he broke free from his shock and saw another color, thoughts like, "I'm done for," and "I need to run," sprang up in his mind. However, he realized that Lu Cheng had already taken a step back. With his hands behind his back, he looked calmly at the referee. The referee raised his right arm and announced the result. Round 4, Lu Cheng wins. Lost? Just like that? Even if he didn't have any hope of defeating Lu Cheng, Wei Rong didn't expect to be defeated at the beginning of the match. This was a crushing defeat that he had never experienced before. Even when he fought against an 8th pin fighter of the professional 9th pin, he had never encountered such a thing. His face burned and he wished he could find a crack to hide in. In the battle just now, Lu Cheng was like bullying a primary school student. Yes, I am that primary school student. He didn't even have the chance to do anything before he lost. In the live broadcast room, Lu Cheng was stunned at first. Then he couldn't help laughing. He glanced at Chen Sanqing and said, "How many seconds did it take?" Well, not counting the time when Lu Cheng stepped back and waited for the referee to announce the result, it was more than 2 seconds, less than 3. Chen Sanqing wanted to laugh but couldn't. He had predicted that Lu Cheng would win quickly, but who would have thought that he would be so fast? That was a weak 7th pin fighter. If it was a life and death battle, he would lose a life in 2 or 3 seconds. Lu Cheng echoed and sighed with emotion. Finally, he asked, "Wei Rong is not that weak. In terms of cards, he should be able to fight with Lu Cheng for more than 10 moves. How could he be defeated so easily?" Chen Sanqing thought for a moment. It's a matter of mentality. Let's put it this way. After the first round, Gao Xingli and Wei Rong's mentality will collapse. In the beginning, they probably didn't have much hope. In this state, they couldn't play to their best level, but they wouldn't be affected by pressure. When they found out that Songqing University didn't put Lin Ke in the lineup, Jin Feng was angry at being looked down upon and wanted to fight. But to fight, they needed Gao Xingli, who was in the starting lineup, to quickly defeat Kai Zongming and Li Mao and try to fight Lu Cheng with 3 people. Only then could they see a glimmer of hope. In the end, I'm not a lip-reading expert. I don't know what Kai Zongming said in the first round, but in short, Gao Xingli was enraged. He used all his strength and defeated his opponent in a few moves. It was a refreshing win, but the consumption was definitely beyond his expectations. In the second round, he still had some hope. Relying on his iron shirt, he didn't want to use force concentration so easily. Who knew that he would be injured, but he still fought with Li Mao. At that distance, in that kind of situation, even if Gao Xingli had absolute reaction, it was too late. In this match, Gao Xingli underestimated his opponent and was conservative. It's very appropriate to use an idiom to describe it. That is, he didn't know when to advance or retreat, so he lost his level. Lu Cheng listened thoughtfully. So, in a martial arts competition, mentality is a very important factor? That's right. Otherwise, why set up a dialogue time? Some martial artists are good at creating momentum and attacking the opponent's mind. They can make the opponent angry, depressed, or scared, and can't perform at least 50 to 60% of their level. Isn't there a saying in the art of war? Also, that couplet also says that those who can attack the heart will be destroyed by turning around. Chen Sanqing smiled and dropped his bag. Gao Xingli was angry in the first round. He made one wrong move, and then all the other steps were wrong. In the second round, he was at a loss, and his mentality completely collapsed. Don't think that he lost the match. In fact, he still has a lot of fighting power. Lu Chang thought for a few seconds and said doubtfully, I'm not surprised that Gao Xingli lost. In the second round, he was at a loss, and there was obviously a problem. He didn't perform as well as he should have. But what does this have to do with Wei Rong? Once Gao Xingli lost, he wouldn't have any more hope, right? Under such circumstances, his mentality was enough to support him to enjoy the match. Why would he collapse? As long as one was human, there would be times when they didn't perform well, and dance stage experts were no exception. When there was a problem with their mentality, or when they accumulated too much fatigue, similar things could happen. Otherwise, in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament, the top professional 9th pin fighters wouldn't have had to worry about fighting. It's a bit of an exaggeration to say that Wei Rong's mentality collapsed, but he definitely didn't enjoy the match. Chen Sanqing paused and said, it's okay if there's no hope. Once there's hope and then it's destroyed, it's inevitable that people will feel depressed. It's inevitable that they want to leave the situation as soon as possible, so they don't have the will to fight and have a fearful mentality. I've told you before that dance stage experts use willpower to control the spirit and communicate with the core of the body. Willpower can be reflected in the body's momentum. The higher the level, the stronger the willpower, and the stronger the momentum. And then there's the confrontation of momentum. Lu Chang was quite familiar with this kind of dance stage general knowledge. Yes, it's not obvious when one is at 7th or 8th pin, but at 6th pin level, momentum is enough to affect the opponent's spirit. Do you remember the match between Lu Cheng and Enchanting? I was referring to this when I said that they were evenly matched in the fight of momentum. This is also one of the uses of the conversation time. Chen Sanqing explained in detail, once there's a flaw in one's mentality when facing a mighty ones of this level, the opponent will definitely take advantage of it and directly suppress the spirit with momentum. Lu Chang nodded slightly and said, no wonder there's such a thing as psychological trauma. Normal people will be affected by psychological trauma. If a martial artist is suppressed by momentum like this, the result can be imagined. Wei Rong is in a similar situation. His cowardice and lack of fighting spirit were caught by Lu Cheng. Under the pressure of momentum, he immediately lost his composure. After that, the army formula attacked, the dance stage exploded, and the ice sect simplified physical and vulnerability control. Once this set of combo moves was used, he could only wait for his head to be harvested. Chen Sanqing glanced at the screen and stopped talking in time. In the seats of the Jinfeng University Martial Arts Club, Lu Chunlai's eyebrows twitched when he saw that Wei Rong, the club president, was defeated in a few seconds. He said to Coach Zheng Fei in embarrassment, "Can I give up?" Before he finished his words, he was immediately stared at by Gao Xingli's bloodshot eyes. I'm just kidding. If you lose in the arena, you're a man. If you give up directly, you're a eunuch. Lu Chunlai laughed dryly and stepped toward the stone steps. For some reason, a strange word flashed in his mind, slaying Hua Xiong with warm wine. Lu Chunlai brushed past Wei Rong, who was hurrying back with his head lowered, and stood in the arena. He was already calm, thinking that every second he could hold on was worth it. If I'm a man, I'll hold on for 100 seconds. He didn't even spare himself when he complained. The referee raised his hand mechanically and waved, "Begin." Lu Chunlai imitated Piao Yuan a few days ago. He swung his waist and back, pushed his feet against the ground, and immediately ran to the right, like a rabbit shot by an arrow. However, the force exertion of a body refining master was not as smooth and fast as a dance stage fighter. There were certain signs before he made a move. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, was at the entry level of the ice mirror. He could sense the changes in the opponent's muscles and fascia at close range. After years of experience, he could be considered half an expert in this field. Lu Chunlai hadn't really run, but he had already judged correctly with just one glance. He took half a step forward, slightly bent his body, and flicked his left arm to the right side of the opponent, sending out a fast-moving cold light. Boom! In the strange explosion, Lu Chunlai, who was running to the right, ran right into the white cold light. Ice burning sprang up and covered his body with a layer of sparkling and translucent frost. Lu Cheng strode to the ice sculpture. When Lu Chunlai broke free from the ice, he saw Lu Cheng's smiling face and heard the referee's announcement, the 5th round, Lu Cheng wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Cheers and trumpets sounded. The audience inexplicably sympathized with the Martial Arts Club of Jinfeng University. I just drank a mouthful of water. Yan Jika wrinkled her nose and pursed her lips. She shook her thermos flask at Lu Cheng, who was looking at her from the arena. Her smile was like a vine growing in her eyes. In the live broadcast room, Chen Sanqing shook his finger and scolded jokingly, "He's destroying the market. If everyone is like Lu Cheng, how can we sell the copyright of the martial arts competition in the future? How can the TV station make money by advertising?" Huh, how many seconds did it take this time? Lu Cheng laughed. Well, less than 2 seconds. Chen Sanqing decided not to continue this unpleasant topic. Congratulations to Songqing University for being the first to enter the top 4. What awaits them is a tough battle. Then, Lu Cheng and the others returned to the locker room. Li Mao went to the emergency room with the help of Kai Zhongming. He was told not to do strenuous exercise for 2 weeks. After that, they watched the match between the capital and Guiyang in the locker room. Renli, who was in charge of the match, didn't do much. She easily defeated Chendigua and Jiang Jingfeng, who had slipped through the gate. Lu Cheng couldn't accurately judge how much progress she had made in the past year. Kongtong School was established by the Wind sect and mastered part of the incomplete chapters of the Plague sect. After the dust settled, the host, Lu Chang, made a conclusion. In this match, Chendigua and Jiang Jingfeng of the capital were very restrained. When they were tired, they left the arena to save their strength. The 2 top 8 matches in the first half are over. If there is no accident, Songqing University and the capital will meet in the semifinals. Let's look forward to this match. Let's look forward to the battle between Lu Cheng and Renli. Well, for example, the seniors of Kongtong School who mastered these weird martial arts were given several interesting nicknames, such as humanoid biochemical weapon, walking gas bomb, forbidden by the Universal Convention, physical invulnerability of mass destruction. Yan Jika was more and more amused. The only thing left was our solemn promise not to use the physical invulnerability fighters of Kongtong School first. Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. After a long time, he said, "That's pretty scary." Fortunately, Renli hasn't reached the inhuman stage. Even if she learns these weird martial arts, she won't have any obvious effect. Yan Jika smiled, showing her dimples. "Silly boy, you don't have to worry about this. Because these weird martial arts are too murderous and can easily hurt innocent people, Kongtong School has been strictly controlling them. They can't be taught to direct disciples and elders who have passed various tests. Even in the top competitions, they rarely appear. Otherwise, when I mentioned those nicknames, I wouldn't have said interesting, but horrible. They rarely appear in the top competitions. No wonder I don't know." Lu Cheng suddenly understood. While talking and laughing, they entered the elevator and came to the floor where the room was. Beep! Yan Jika swiped her card and entered the room. When she was about to close the door, she suddenly turned around and looked at Lu Cheng with her bright eyes through the gap. She said with a smile, "Do you want to watch the competition video of the capital together tonight?" At this time, Such an invitation made Lu Cheng's blood boil and rush to his head. He was about to push the door open and hug his little fairy. But when he thought of his master's order and the upcoming war, he hesitated and thought it was better to cultivate his mind and temper and fully prepare for the upcoming war. In the short period of hesitation, he saw a trace of wisdom in Yenjika's eyes and heard her say in a light tone, "It seems that you don't want to. Then forget it." Before her voice died away, she had already prepared and closed the door with a bang, leaving a burst of clear and undisguised laughter. She was very proud. All of a sudden, it dawned on Lu Cheng that Ku was deliberately teasing him. She knew very well that with his personality, he would definitely consider the war with the capital and his master's advice. He would definitely hesitate. That was why she had never intended to let him into her room from the beginning. "You know how to flirt back. You know how to tease me." Lu Cheng took out his phone and sent a message with an exclamation mark to express his feelings. "Heh heh." Yenjika replied quickly. She first laughed and then said, "I only dare to flirt with you when you don't know how to do anything. Otherwise, how embarrassing." "Who said that? Who said, 'Don't you want to kiss me' at the door that day?" Lu Cheng teased. He had understood for a long time that when interacting with girls, you can't just flatter and say sweet words. You have to tease and tease from time to time to be intimate. "Forget it." "No, I didn't say that." Yenjika replied shyly. "It's not easy for me to take the initiative and you dare to laugh at me." "Humph, I won't be close to you in the future." Lu Cheng knew when to stop. He smiled and said, "Guess what I'm thinking now?" Yenjika replied, "Thinking that if I flirt with you again next time, you won't care about anything else?" "Humph, there won't be a next time." "No." Lu Cheng laughed. "I'm considering whether or not to break in. How much would I have to pay the hotel if the door is destroyed without a complete corpse? Not to mention the door, even the wall can't stop me." Yenjika sent an angry emoji and said, "Go back to sleep." "Okay." After flirting for a while, Lu Cheng went back to his room and washed up. When he lay on the bed, he chatted with Yenjika while browsing the forums and Weibo. From time to time, he would chat with Talker and Fatty Jiang. At this time, the official website of the Weibo Lottery Company had announced the latest odds for the final match between Capital and Songqing University. Capital, 1-1. 3, including principal. Songqing University, 1-1. 5, including principal. The odds for both sides were quite close. Capital was slightly lower, which meant that the public thought they had a higher chance of winning. That's reasonable. Lu Cheng glanced over and read the analysis and predictions of the famous martial arts influencers. 3 generations of the Chen family said, Lin Ke is stronger than Chindigua, while Yenjika is weaker than Jiang Jingfeng or Jiang Kongchan. The final result depends largely on Lin Ke and Renli. If Lin Ke wins by 1 or 2 moves and exhausts Chindigua a little bit, Lin Ke will be able to maintain a decent strength to face Jiang Jingfeng or Jiang Kongchan. Even if he still loses, he can exhaust his opponent to a very tired state, which gives Yenjika a good chance to win. After all, these 2 professional 8th pin fighters are pure fighters without supernatural abilities. If Renli wins, Lin Ke will be exhausted in advance. When facing Chindigua, who is a normal professional 7th pin fighter or even stronger, he may lose if he is careless. Even if he wins, he will be close to his limit. In this case, Jiang Jingfeng or Jiang Kongchan can preserve most of their strength to face Yenjika. If they don't break down and lose their performance, the result will be predictable. So, who has a higher chance of winning, Lu Cheng or Renli? Judging from the strength he has shown so far, Lu Cheng has the combat capability of a top 6th pin, while Renli hasn't shown her full strength yet. Of course, we all believe that she must have reached the realm of a top 6th pin, or even close to the inhuman stage. From this point of view, they are almost the same. But on the other hand, Renli knows her enemy well, while Lu Cheng knows himself well. Therefore, I am cautiously optimistic that Renli will win by a narrow margin and the capital will enter the final again. All-knowing man in ganghood didn't post a long Weibo this time, but only a short sentence. Probability of winning, Renli 60%, Lu Qing 40%, the capital wins. So did superstition is not. He said with conviction, the substitutes of Songqing University are too weak. How can they beat the capital? Good, this toxic healer. Lu Qing laughed. When he was about to click on the comments, Yan Zhika forwarded an interview video to him. Look, Ren Li's post-match interview. Well. Lu Qing buffered the data and watched it carefully. In the video, Ren Li stood in front of the reporters like a doll with her hair tied in a half bun. She was of medium height, neither tall nor short. Today, we still have 3 questions, but they are not related to this match. The reporter was obviously familiar with Ren Li, so he said with a smile. Okay. Ren Li nodded slightly. First, we are actually very curious. You are not like Peng Liyun, who has an unusual interest in physics. Why do you still want to enter a university instead of accepting the arrangement of Kong Tong School and participating in professional competitions step by step? The reporter asked with great interest. Renli opened her mouth slightly and said with her eyes looking up, my parents are both professors in the university. If I don't study for an undergraduate degree, I feel that I am illiterate. There will be a generation gap between them. And the more knowledge I have, the more I can comprehend martial arts by analogy. So you are from a scholarly family. The reporter praised. Second question, I heard that you are usually very muddle-headed, especially road blindness. Has it reached the terminal stage of a terminal illness? Renli unconsciously pouted her mouth and answered with a slight grievance. They say that I am always in the state of, who am I, where am I, what am I doing? I think so. A person's energy is limited. He can only concentrate on 2 or 3 things. As for the rest, just let it be. Haha, why do I feel that your answer is very weak? The reporter laughed. Third, what do you think of the match between you and Lu Qing? Who has a higher chance of winning? In terms of strength, it's 50-50. Let's see who can perform better on the spot. Ren Li answered sincerely. The reporter shook her head. No, you haven't revealed your trump card in this national competition. Just from this point alone, you have an advantage. Ren Li looked at her helplessly as if to say, hey, don't expose me. In the video of the interview, the bullet screen was filled with comments such as, wow, so cute, you're so cute, Ren Li, I'll always support you. Beat Lu Qing. Lu Qing was annoyed and amused at the same time. He was looking forward to the semifinals. Of course, before that, there was one more thing to do. That was to watch the match between Peng Liyun and Xiaoyang and see the true level of the former. Chapter 391. April 20th, 7:56 in the evening. Peng Liyun defeated Xiaoyang for the 3rd time in 3 years, showing that he was only half a step away from the inhuman stage. In the following battle, he defeated Piao Yuan with his exhausted body and completed the feat of 1 versus 2. After Su Wanyan defeated Xing Jingjing with his corvine mouth, Hua Hai bade farewell to the national competition with the worst result in the past 5 years and bid farewell to the former champion, Xiaoyang. The sleeping tiger left quietly, leaving only a lonely figure in the hearts of the audience of this year's martial arts tournament, the lonely figure after losing to Lu Qing. Passion is no match for strength, and passion is no match for God. April 21st, 9:07 in the morning. A portal released an exclusive interview with Hua Hai University Martial Arts Club, in which Piao Yuan and Xiaoyang described in detail the characteristics of Lu Qing's newly mastered simplified physical invulnerability, suspecting that it was the internal explosion punch of the fire sect. Hearing this, the audience was in an uproar. They didn't expect Lu Qing, a direct disciple of the Ice God sect, to have inherited the fire sect. Many people began to think that he had a close relationship with the Longhu Club. In the fan forum, Brahman was jubilant, posting photos to congratulate Lu Qing. Her cute and tender appearance attracted many strange uncles and aunts. In the forum of the Longhu Club, moderators such as Pig Riding Night, active IDs such as Above the Sky, and A Plumber Eating Mushrooms, were seriously discussing the possibility of Lu Qing joining the club in the future, and even thinking of a better nickname for him. This made Lu Qing, who was silently eavesdropping on their conversation, feel a little ashamed. He couldn't think of a satisfactory nickname to lead the trend after a long time. April 21st, 3:30 in the afternoon. Because of the widely known relationship between Lu Qing and Dragon King, the odds set by the gambling companies changed again. Capital's odds went up, while Songqing University's went down. The difference was almost negligible. In the various gambling shops, many hobbyists, who wandered around all year round, finished studying the bets and made their choices. In addition, the audience who usually didn't set foot in this area entered these shops or placed bets online with the mentality of gambling for fun. April 22nd, 7:11 in the evening. At the entrance of the martial arts arena of the capital, the audience from all directions had formed a long line. Ding Yisan, who was holding popcorn and eating roasted sausages, looked around and said excitedly to Qiu Hailin, Du Yin, and the others, "There are really so many people." After the semi-finals were confirmed, the Capital Academy Martial Arts Club took advantage of the fact that they were fighting in their home territory and obtained the right to sell some tickets so that their supporters could come to the venue to cheer. Qiu Hailin, on the other hand, used her connections in the student union to successfully buy tickets for all 4 of her roommates. "I'm thinking about a problem." Du Yin was influenced by the singing and dancing of the audience around her. "What's the problem?" Qiu Hailin exposed her smooth forehead and asked blankly. "Yisan is such a love-struck fool. Will she support our school's martial arts club or Lu Qing?" Du Yin looked at Ding Yisan, whose cheeks were bulging as she ate. Ding Yisan was stunned when she heard that. She swallowed half a mouthful of roasted intestines. "I'll cheer for the martial arts club with you guys, but I'll still hope for Lu Qing to win. I'll devote myself to the school and my heart to him." Why does that sound so familiar? Qiu Hailin was both amused and confused. Just then, they saw a group of boys in checkered shirts passing by with banners in their hands and heard them shouting, "Ren Li! Ren Li!" In such a lively atmosphere, similar shouts could be heard constantly, half joking and half venting. April 22nd, 7:23 p.m. With the lighting and camera in place, the live broadcast began. Welcome to the 2 semi-finals of this year's University Martial Arts Competition. First, Songqing University vs. Capital, and then Shanbei vs. Guangnan. The host, Lu Chang, said with a professional smile, "Tonight, I'll be commentating with our old friend, Qin Sansheng." "Thank you, everyone." "Thank you, Lu Chang." Qin Sansheng put his palms together and shook his head with a smile. After a short exchange of greetings, the live broadcast switched back to the scene, showing the audience in front of the screen the gradually filled stands. It was obvious that Capital supporters were quite organized. They occupied one side of the stands, holding banners, drawing sketches, blowing horns, or singing cheerfully, which ignited the enthusiasm of the onlookers. As for the other audience, some were wearing Songqing University's white martial arts suit with black edges, and some were holding cartoon figures of Lu Qing, Lin Ke, and Yan Zhika. They were scattered, each forming their own formation. April 22nd, 7:29 p.m. Yan Shaoling climbed out of bed and sat in front of the desk. She set up the computer and took out the snacks. While refreshing the forum and chatting with Brahman and unparalleled Dragon King to liven up the atmosphere, she turned off the bullet screen and listened to Qin Sansheng and Lu Chang's commentary. Behind her, Mu Jinyan held a string of Bodhi beads in her left hand and prayed before the competition. April 22nd, 7:35 p.m. In the locker room of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Geezer sure clapped his hands to wake up Lu Qing and the others who were resting with their eyes closed. He coughed and said, "Let's not think about Capital's formation today. Let's do our best and challenge them in our strongest form." Lu Qing, Lin Ke, Yan Zhika, from strong to weak, form a long spear charging momentum. Fight one by one until you run out of ammunition and food. If Capital doesn't have Renly first, then you should try to beat Chandigua and the others quickly and seize the opportunity. If you meet Renly in the beginning, I don't need to say anything more, right? Don't think about saving anything for the finals. Don't worry about fatigue and injuries. Hey, if you lose, it's useless to think about these things. Do you understand? Lu Cheng, Lin Ke, Yan Zhika, and the others took a deep breath and answered in unison, yes. April 22nd, 7:36 p.m. In the locker room of Capital College Martial Arts Club, Xinyu, who was also a part-time coach, looked around with a slightly listless left eye and said with a faint smile, "Do you remember what happened after the finals last year?" In the finals last year, Capital College lost to Shanbei by a small margin and failed to win the championship. Hearing Xinyu's words, whether it was Chandigua, Jiang Jingfeng, or Jiang Kongchan, who were the main players in last year's final, or Jiang Kongchan, who was a newcomer at that time, they all recalled the sad and sentimental scenes and remembered that they had held hands and shouted, "Next year's champion." Remember. How can we not remember? We are the team that is destined to win the championship this year. Chandigua clenched his fists and shook them. After the final match, I will go to Peng Liyun and the others as the winner and pretentiously say my favorite quote from the novel, "Pain is my friend." Please allow me to introduce it to you. Xinyu smiled and nodded. She stood up and said, "It's good that you still remember. Our goal is to win the championship, and from now on, we will meet the two strongest opponents. There is no room for any slack or contempt. We have walked for a year and finally come here again. Now, we can't walk like before. We have to sprint, sprint. Sprint." Chandigua and Jiang Kongchan's fighting spirit was completely ignited. Renly also put away her usual absent-mindedness and joined them, shouting out all the pent-up emotions in her heart. April 22nd, 7:40 p.m. In the locker rooms of both sides, Lu Cheng and the others once again formed a circle, half bent down, one hand on the shoulder of the person next to them, and the other hand in the center, overlapping each other. Renly, Chandigua, and Jiang Kongchan stretched out their fists and touched each other in the air. Victory! Lu Cheng, Kai Zhongming and the others shouted crazily. Sprint! The main force and substitutes of Capital College Martial Arts Club shouted together and bumped fists. Clang! The doors of both locker rooms were opened at the same time, and the outside light shone in with the rolling sound waves. April 22nd, 7:41 p.m. When the referee stepped into the ring, the announcer of the martial arts arena said in a hoarse voice, "The roster of Capital College Martial Arts Club is arranged in order: Renly, Chandigua, Jiang Kongchan." In the burst of cheers, he continued to announce, "The roster of Songqing University Martial Arts Club is Lu Cheng, Lin Ke, Yan Zhika." Before his voice died away, the whole arena boiled up, excluding all the noise. It was definitely over 125 decibels. There was no need for anyone to say anything. Everyone was very clear about what the first battle was. April 22nd, 7:45 p.m. The semi-final match between Capital College Martial Arts Club and Songqing University Martial Arts Club officially began. The first round, Renly vs. Lu Cheng. Chapter 392. In the martial arts arena of the capital city, the lights were brilliant and the atmosphere was bursting. Lu Cheng had such a feeling that he couldn't help but tremble slightly. Seeing the referee waving to both sides and the electronic clock saying 43 minutes, he slowly stood up, took off his thin coat, and looked at his girlfriend beside him, wondering how she would cheer for him this time. At this moment, Yan Zhika also stood up, clenched her white fist, shook it a few times, and shouted softly, "Lu Cheng! Lu Cheng! Come on, Lu Cheng!" The familiar voice, familiar tone, and familiar words made Lu Cheng feel like he was in a trance. He felt like he was going back in time, and he especially cherished the beauty and hardships of this journey. This was the first cheer he had received in the first few challenge tournaments in his life. At that time, he didn't expect to participate in the semi-finals of the National Martial Arts competition in the second semester of his sophomore year and compete with Renly, the heavenly son of the age, on such a high-level stage. Since joining the martial arts club, it had taken him 1 year and 7 months. Step by step, he had finally reached this point. He had reached the threshold of the finals. Whether to advance or retreat, it all depended on this one move. "I'll do my best." Lu Qing replied with the same reply from that time, but with an additional action. He reached out his fist and bumped with the girl. In his spare time, he would occasionally look through the past chat records. At a certain stage, he would export and back up them. Yenjika seemed to remember the scene and the conversation at that time. She looked at him and smiled. Everything was understood without words. Beside them, Li Mao, Sun Jian, Kai Zhongming, and the others were puzzled by this, back to the basics, encouragement and reply. They felt that it was not in line with the style of this couple who flaunted their affection every day. Shouldn't they be more and more intimate with each other every time? "When we fought Huahai, although we didn't look back, we could guess that you were doing something inappropriate behind the scenes. Why was it so simple and so innocent this time?" Both Lu Qing and Yenjika sensed their confusion. They smiled at each other again, feeling the sweetness of sharing an exclusive secret with each other. Without saying anything more, Lu Qing reached out his hand and gave Lin Kai, Kai Zhongming, and the others a pat on the shoulder. Amidst the cheers of "good luck," he turned around and walked towards the stone steps of the arena while the big screen was rolling. With every step he took, he became firmer because of the memories from before. The more he walked, the faster he walked, the steadier he became. His willpower slowly rose, and his aura gradually rose. When he stepped onto the arena and saw Renly, whose straight hair was coiled up elegantly, he was already like a snowy peak, towering into the clouds. In the biting cold north wind, he was steady and cold, steep and sacred, making people worship him. Renly, on the other hand, was like a rootless and formless wind. Sometimes, she would sneak into the night and hide in silence. Sometimes, she would be fierce like a knife. Sometimes, she would surge and sweep, turning into the apocalypse. The most amazing thing about her momentum was that her willpower was hidden in the wind, drifting and dispersing at will. This made it impossible for Lu Qing to fight her head-on, so he could only defend passively. Of course, the highland and snowy mountains were not something that could be shaken by a hurricane. The martial arts of the wind sect were indeed mysterious. Lu Qing praised in his mind. He and Renly stood on opposite sides of the referee, about 8 to 10 meters apart. In the live broadcast room, Chen Sanqing couldn't help but clear his throat and say to the audience watching the live broadcast, "The battle of the heavenly sons of the era is about to begin." In Lu Cheng's and Renly's respective fan forums, the IDs that were chatting earlier all stopped posting and focused their attention on the screen. The men and women in the stadium also held their breaths, watching the digital clock move to 45 minutes and the referee raise his right hand. "Talk time starts now." As a high-ranked Dan stage referee, his voice overpowered the audience. As a quasi-senior in the martial arts circle, he clearly knew how much attention this competition had attracted. Not only the fans, the elders and disciples of the Ice Gods sect and the Kongtong school would be watching, but even the Dragon King and Dong Baxian were said to have set aside some time to watch the battle. In the ticking sound of the clock, Renly suddenly opened her big eyes and asked in confusion and curiosity, "Is your new simplified physical invulnerability really the internal explosion of the fire sect?" As a direct disciple of a big sect and the last disciple of the blazing sun sword, Qi Ling, she naturally knew that Gizershur had a close relationship with the military, and the relationship between the military and the Longhu Club was known to all physical invulnerability experts. Since this had been exposed, Lu Qing had nothing to hide. He answered frankly, "Yes." Why is Renly asking this? Is she using this to start a conversation and attack his mind? But I heard that she's not good at this. Chindigua is more likely to do this. Not everyone could be called talker. Renly sighed with satisfaction and asked again, "Then do you practice Emperor Yen force or a fire force?" These were the two core forces of the fire sect, known as two of the top 3 offensive forces among the physical invulnerability experts. Lu Qing blushed. He thought about it and decided not to lie or bluff. He answered honestly, Zhu Rong force. If Renly didn't believe him and let her imagination run wild, then it was her own problem. What does she want to do during the talk time? Should I seize this opportunity to influence my opponent's mood like talker? Oh. Renly seemed to have solved a problem that had been lingering in her heart for a long time. A faint joy appeared between her eyebrows. She thought for a while and said, You answered 2 questions. Well, then I'll tell you 2 things. Not only have I mastered the simplified physical invulnerability of the Wind sect, but I've also mastered the simplified physical invulnerability of the Plague sect. Also, my force is the post-wind force. Lu Qing was a little dumbfounded when he heard Renly reveal her secret. Hey, we're having a match in the arena, not a game of truth or dare. What exactly do you think a sacred period like conversation time is? Source, Talker's quotes. After Renly finished speaking, she closed her mouth tightly. The light in her eyes gradually gathered, as if condensing into a ray of light, which complemented the fresh martial arts suit on her body, which had a light green base and light white embellishment. At this moment, Lu Qing, who had recovered from his stupor, started to wonder if Renly was telling the truth or not and what her real intention was. Is she really returning the favor by revealing her secret on her own accord, or is she deliberately misleading me so that I can divert more energy to guard against the elusive simplified physical invulnerability of the Plague sect? Forget it. I won't think too much about it. Anyway, even if Renly didn't tell me, I still have to guard against such things. I don't want to be fooled by the unique skills of the Plague sect for no reason. Lu Qing gradually calmed down from his train of thoughts. He calmed himself down and pushed his condition up again. While they were silent, the referee glanced at the electronic clock, raised his right hand, swung it down violently, and shouted, Begin. Whoosh. Renly was the first to move. She took a step to the left, and then twisted to the right. Her footwork, fascia, muscles, and strength were all coordinated. Suddenly, a small whirlwind was stirred up. The whirling tornado was visible to the naked eye. It rushed straight towards Lu Qing with a soul-shaking howl, rolling up a lot of dust on the ground. As for Renly, it was as if she had disappeared into thin air. Buddha's voice accompanying. Stepping on the dipper. These 2 words flashed across Lu Qing's mind as he was making hand seals to use the army formula. He realized that Renly had reached an incredible level in the Wind step, which was the level of quasi-inhuman. This was similar to the Buddha's voice accompanying and stepping on the dipper. However, the Great Thunder's Cloud, Great Lion's Roar, and Great Wisdom Sound, which could only be mastered by Qiu Lin before she reached physical invulnerability, were merely lotus steps accompanied by cloud and thunder. Moreover, the cloud and thunder sound didn't have the effect of enlightening people. Renly was obviously not at the beginner level in this aspect. She could be said to have reached the next level. If Qiu Lin was used as a comparison, her lotus steps accompanied by cloud and thunder was close to the highest level, surrounded by strong winds as if they were protecting her. The sound of the wind was so loud that even the deaf could hear it. This was not only a footwork, but also a sound skill. Lu Qing heard a hair-raising howl in his ears, as if the devil was about to come. In front of him was the whirling tornado. He quickly changed his hand seals and outlined a new ancient word in his mind. He said in a low voice, Forwarding. The forwarding formula suppressed all devils. Chapter 393. The word forwarding reverberated in a low voice. Lu Qing's fear and trepidation immediately calmed down. There was no longer the feeling of extraterrestrial demon fantasy in his mind. Only the small visible tornado in front of him was real. With the protection of Hurricane Circle, Renly didn't have to worry about being hit directly by burning of ice and fire or the influence of army formula. It seemed that Lu Cheng had no other choice but to dodge and wait for the right time. However, the battle of momentum was still going on. If he was forced to retreat at the beginning of the battle, he would inevitably fall into a disadvantage mentally, which would have a certain adverse effect on the following battles. When it came to the moment when victory was decided by a hair's breadth, this might be the key factor. A thought flashed through Lu Cheng's mind. Instead of retreating, he took half a step forward, swung his right arm, and threw a punch at the roaring mini-tornado. Boom! The fist hit the void, the airflow expanded, and the flames rose and rolled out, colliding with the tornado. The most basic application of the power of blaze, bursting punch. Whoosh! The sound of the wind suddenly grew louder. The flames and the whirlwind collapsed and scattered in all directions. At this moment, a figure leaped out from the disintegrated wind vortex. He made a small arc and leaned forward to attack Lu Cheng from the side. Lu Cheng had anticipated this. He tightened his thighs and kicked out with his left foot, making a crisp sound out of nowhere. Renly sensed it before she got close. She bent down again and opened her right fist, turning it into a palm knife. She fiercely chopped at the bone above Lu Cheng's ankle, blocking and attacking at the same time. Bam! Lu Cheng felt a pain in his calf, as if he had suffered a little hard injury. He couldn't help but throw it back and retract it. Renli's palm knife bounced up and crossed with her left palm, leaving only a thin gap as thick as an A4 paper in the middle. Bam! She twisted her waist and bones, and her strength surged. Then she crossed her palms, stirring up a wind blade as thin as a cicada's wing and flying out. With a whoosh, Lu Cheng's absolute reaction made his scalp numb. He lowered his head without thinking. Whoosh! The sharp wind blew, and a tuft of his short hair fell down. The cut was neat and smooth. The 18th move of Wind Sect, Cold Wind. As soon as he lowered his head, Lu Cheng moved. He swung his left hand forward, shook his wrist, and hooked it, sending out a ray of white light that moved close to the ground. He was using offense as defense, not giving Renly any chance to take advantage of his opening to attack. He also took advantage of the situation to turn his body sideways, following closely behind with ice flame. One move after another, like a never-ending, brutal blizzard. The distance between them was so close that their fists and feet could meet. After Renly threw out the cold wind, she was about to pounce forward when she was attacked by the ice burning. Seeing that she couldn't avoid it, she lifted her thigh and turned her ankle. In an instant, she exerted her strength and tightened her instep, kicking out a strong wind. Boom! The icy flames in the wind and the cold light shot up to the sky, separating Lu Cheng and Renly. Bam! Lu Cheng smashed through the white flames and rammed into his opponent. And Lu. Calm. Of. Her left foot landed on the ground. She withdrew and released her chi and blood. Then she stepped on the ground and broke the bricks. She pounced and leaned to one side. Lu Cheng didn't have time to make any other changes. He followed up with force concentration. He stretched his body and expanded his muscles. He was going hard against hard. Bam! The wind whimpered. Their bodies swung back at the same time. Then they bounced their spines and turned back to punch. Their coordination was so good that it seemed they had practiced it thousands of times. Lu Cheng believed that Renly must have mastered a similar kung fu to sense the enemy's movement. It was just not as mysterious as his own ice mirror. Bam! Their fists shot out from the sides of their waists and collided with each other. One side was filled with a scorching aura, while the other side was filled with a swelling pain that tore through their veins and skin. Zhu Rong force versus post-wind force. Whoosh! The gale from the ninth heaven consumed itself and blew out the fire flow. At this point, the gale didn't calm down. It was still raging. This was the biggest feature of the after-wind force. It could last for a long time, longer than any other force. It wasn't that Lu Cheng didn't know about this. As soon as the Zhurong force was extinguished, the cold wave in his body, driven by the balance of ice and fire, surged and froze the invading gale completely. Lu Qing felt a tearing pain in his muscles and tendons, while Renli felt a burning sensation in her blood vessels and meridians. They both slowed down for a while. Lu Qing, with the help of his supernatural ability, caused more damage. He recovered first. He bent his right leg and hit the enemy's lower abdomen with his knee at such a close distance. Renli clenched her teeth. She tilted her body and also bent her knee to hit back. Bam! Lu Qing and Renli showed the same painful expression at the same time. The joints were the weakest part of the human body, and the knee was no exception. Therefore, neither of them dared to restrain their strength. Otherwise, they would definitely suffer a comminuted fracture. Enduring the pain, Lu Qing used his knee as a fulcrum and suddenly popped out his calf to kick the enemy. Renli didn't panic. She tilted her waist and moved out of the way, narrowly avoiding the attack. There was no room for breathing. They both took a step back and tried to restrain their strength and spirit. Boom! With her Dan force gushing out, Renli twisted her waist and back and whipped out her left leg with a snap. It was so fast that it almost left a residual shadow in the wind. Lu Qing countered with a tit for tat. He expanded his muscles and responded with a whip kick, using the end of the sheath to exert force. Bam! In the muffled sound, their feet seemed to be frozen in the air for a short time. Around them, white waves of air rolled and disappeared in a flash. Bam! 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 Renli quickly retracted her leg, turned around and kicked again. She kicked 7 times in a row, creating a residual shadow of her leg in the posture of continuous explosion. Her whole body seemed to be in the air. The 27th move of the wind sect, tornado. Bam! 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 Lu Qing used the momentum of the mega avalanche to drive the consecutive explosions. Although he couldn't borrow too much power each time, he was able to keep up with Renli's tornado with each explosion faster than the previous one. His defense was impregnable. They didn't move an inch. The place where they fought fiercely was like being hit by a cannonball. Shallow pits, cracks, strong winds, and broken stones appeared. Seeing that the tornado had no end and was getting faster and faster, Lu Qing didn't dare to block it with 24 blizzard strikes. After 8 consecutive explosions, he suddenly visualized the image of thundercloud shaking. He tightened the muscles and fascias of his instep, calf, and thigh and pulled out a Thunder Zen. In the past few months, his attainments in Thunder War Zen were much better than before. Boom! Their legs crossed and collided in the air. The violent shock surged up along Renli's feet, shaking her chi, blood, and muscles. While trembling, she tried to use force concentration, but failed to do 9 consecutive explosions. Lu Qing, who had no strength to borrow from the tornado, couldn't help but stagger backward and retreat under the pressure of the tornado. As soon as the arch of his foot fell, Lu Qing suddenly raised his hands and made a gesture. He solemnly shouted in a low voice, "Army." After a long fight, he finally found a chance to use the army formula. The sound of the wind intensified as a cruel aura permeated the air. Renli felt like she was on a battlefield, facing hundreds of horsemen. They were all wearing iron helmets and chainmail, riding on majestic horses. After that, they all put down their masks at the same time, raised their spears and lowered their bodies. Then they clamped their legs and charged forward. Pointing the spears, they were invincible. Thump! 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 The earth was shaking, and the chill penetrated into the soul. Those who had not been on the battlefield for a long time would inevitably be scared out of their wits, and Renli was no exception. However, her willpower and spirit were like a shapeless mass of wind. After being oppressed and stimulated, they first scattered and then gathered together again. The light in her eyes quickly recovered. However, Lu Qing didn't expect that his army formula, which was not fully mastered yet, could affect Renli, a direct disciple of a big sect. He just wanted to seize the opportunity. As his voice echoed, he exerted force on his left foot and jumped forward. In his mind, he visualized a heavy and hot red sun. Learning from his last fight with Enchaoyang, he first used the simplified physical invulnerability move of the fire sect, internal explosion. As soon as the red sun appeared, the heat flow in Lu Cheng's body seemed to be affected by gravity. It collapsed instantly and condensed into a ball. The visualized image in his mind changed. Zhurong, who had the head of a beast and the body of a human, stepped on a red dragon. The ball of fire that was about to explode calmed down and could be controlled. Lu Cheng took a step forward, swung his arm, and punched his opponent with his right fist. Renli had already recovered after his counterattack. Seeing that she couldn't dodge his attack, she calmed down and visualized a green hurricane that connected the 9 heavens and the earth. Boulders, trees, and seawater were all sucked into it and rolled up to the heavens. Her muscles expanded and contracted, her internal organs squirmed, and waves were generated. The visualized image changed. A female god made of various kinds of wind appeared and suppressed everything that was out of control. Facing Lu Cheng's fist, Renli slightly turned her body. Her shoulders exploded and her arms swelled. Her left fist didn't give in to Lu Cheng's attack. The 10th move of the Wind Sect, the simplified physical invulnerability move, 9 Heavens Breath. Boom! The fist collided with the fist. A gust of wind gushed out, blowing away most of the fireballs. However, the remaining fireballs still surged into Ren Li's body, exploding violently. Waves of fire surged out, shaking her internal organs and shaking her chi and blood. Just as the taste of rust filled Ren Li's throat, Lu Qing felt that her punch didn't seem to come from the front, but from the bottom of his feet. The wind force whistled upwards, trying to tear apart his muscles and fascia, and at the same time, to fly to the 9th heaven. Renli clenched her teeth, straightened her back, and swelled her arms. She suddenly pulled and lifted Lu Qing up to the heavens as if he was weightless. This was the special feature of the 9 Heavens Breath. It could send people up to the heavens. But once the feet left the ground and without the supernatural ability to fly, the martial artist was often in danger. A foreign martial artist once experienced it and gave it a nickname from a comic book, Rising Dragon Lord. After sending Lu Qing flying with one move, Renli quickly did a force concentration to neutralize most of the effects of the internal explosion. Then, facing the enemy who was about to fall, she used the wind steps, turned her body, and turned into a whirlwind, whistling as she soared up. Under the protection of the strong wind, she clenched her fists like a drill. Combo again. When Renli was still making a force concentration, Lu Qing had already adjusted his center of gravity. Seeing her consecutive killer moves, he didn't dare to be careless. He quickly condensed the heat flow, pressed down and hooked his left palm, and hit out a violent red fireball. Flame burning. Boom! The fireball hit Renli, but it was dispersed by the whirlwind and fell down one by one. Renli jumped out from the side of the whirlwind and rose up with Lu Qing at the same speed. Regarding this, Lu Qing secretly thanked his lucky stars. If he hadn't held back just now and directly compressed all of his power of flames and shot it out in an attempt to blast his opponent away, he would have missed and wasted his power. He would have been caught in a difficult situation. Bam! He hooked and shook his right wrist and threw out a crystal cold light at Renli's face. At the same time, he tightened his left palm and attacked the opponent's lower abdomen. During this process, Lu Qing was falling and Renli's upward momentum had just stopped. Renli's right fist was in front of her neck. Seeing the ice burning coming, she calmly opened her fist and threw it into the air. Bam! With a crisp sound, a strong wind blew and detonated the cold light in advance. As for Lu Cheng's left hook, she just stretched her palm and caught it steadily. Then Renli took a breath and her body expanded. Her falling momentum suddenly slowed down, as if there was a parachute on her back or a wind supporting her. One was falling fast, the other was falling slowly. Lu Cheng and Renli's positions quickly changed. Bam! Renli spat out the turbid air and regained her falling speed. She kicked out her left foot fiercely, aiming at Lu Cheng's head with an overbearing momentum. Lu Cheng raised his right arm and took the initiative to block the attack while maintaining the state of heart like ice mirror. Bam! Renly took advantage of the falling momentum and kicked Lu Cheng's arm away. Then she took advantage of the rebounding momentum and pulled out her right leg. She attacked continuously without any gaps. If one kick was not enough, then another. Lu Cheng raised his left arm again and barely blocked the kick. Renly wanted to take advantage of the fact that his stance was completely broken to kick again, but she kicked empty air. After being kicked twice in a row, Lu Cheng's falling speed increased. He broke away from contact and hit the ground. Thump. As soon as he landed on the ground, Lu Cheng took a step back to neutralize the momentum of his fall. Just as he steadied himself, Renly stepped onto the arena again. She took a step to the left and then spun to the right. Using the wind steps, she created a small tornado and blew out a whooshing sound that went straight into the hearts of people. In the sound that shook the spirit, Lu Cheng's ice mirror collapsed and his head was dizzy. Then he held on with a steady and tenacious will. He visualized the ancient word, formed a seal and shouted in a low voice, "Forward." His mind was clear again. With the sound of the wind, Renly shot out from the tornado and arrived in front of him. She was so fast that the audience almost couldn't see her figure. The 20-second move of the wind sect, whoosh. In the process of quickly closing the distance, Renly visualized the image of a human body. There were countless strange black gas drilling in and out of the human body. Her footsteps paused, and the scene in her mind changed. A god with a face as blue as indigo, hair as red as cinnabar, 3 heads, 6 arms, and deep vertical eyes descended from the sky. Each of his hands held a seal, a bell, a banner, and other items. Bam! The moment the god in her mind shook the flag and the bell rang, Renly shook her right arm and punched down diagonally. The simplified physical invulnerability move of the plague sect, sickness. With the help of the forwarding formula, Lu Cheng wasn't affected by the sound skill of wind step for long. When Renly approached him, he was already fully awake. Seeing that he might be hit even if he dodged, he decided to visualize the giant red sun and fire god Jerome again. He answered Renly's attack with internal explosion. Even if you're close to the inhuman stage and have the simplified physical invulnerability move to neutralize the power of internal explosion, 3 moves won't hurt you badly. But it will cause you serious internal injuries and weaken your strength rapidly. This is the second time. Bam! Lu Cheng suddenly felt empty and weak. He felt stuffy in his chest and short of breath. His limbs were weak as if he was suffering from a serious illness. Renly took a step back. Streaks of blood appeared in her sparkling eyes. Her internal organs were tumbling and her head was swelling. She felt like vomiting. She couldn't give him a chance to neutralize the sickness with force concentration. Renly clenched her teeth and endured the discomfort in her body. She rushed forward and swung her arm at the enemy's head. Lu Cheng was weak and couldn't exert his strength. He barely managed to raise his arm to block. Bam! He was forced to take a step back and stagger. Renly, facing the golden stars that appeared in front of her, swung her waist and kicked out her left leg quickly. In the midst of the shaking, Lu Cheng simply took advantage of the momentum and leaped backward. He staggered, his footsteps unsteady, and narrowly avoided the kick. Renly wanted to seize the opportunity to take down her opponent, but the tumbling of her internal organs and chi made her feel dizzy. She couldn't move in time. She had to take a deep breath and return her chi, blood, force, spirit, and the effects of internal explosion to her dantian. Seeing this, Lu Cheng hurriedly controlled his spirit with his will and forced himself to do force concentration. His sickness was contained in the ice and fire. Since the beginning of the battle, this was the first time that the battle between the two had slowed down. Wonderful. In the live broadcast room, Chen Sanqing wanted to express his feelings with vulgarities. This is King wonderful. In this battle, the situation of victory and defeat was constantly changing. Sometimes it was Renly, and sometimes it was Lu Cheng. Both of them had been trying to seize the initiative. Throughout the whole battle, there was not a single place to be pissed. The onlookers didn't even dare to take a sip of water for fear that they would miss a crucial moment in the blink of an eye. If the battle just now was divided into segments, everyone would realize that they were fighting fiercely in a state of life and death. This state lasted for a very long time, and only now was it considered to have eased up. If it were most of the rank success, they would have collapsed under this kind of oppressive and aggressive fighting style long ago, but they actually both persevered. They are indeed the heavenly sons of the era. What else can I say? An interesting emoji popped up in Chensancheng's mind. As for the live audience, their cheers and shouts at the beginning gradually turned into silence. It wasn't until Lu Cheng and Renly were separated for a short while that the audience woke up from their daze and started cheering loudly and madly. Great! Awesome! Yenjika, who had been staring at the ring, loosened her clenched fists, relieved the pain of biting her lower lip, and recovered a little from the intense feeling of breathlessness. At this moment, she focused her eyes again. Lu Cheng and Renly didn't want to miss the opportunity of each other's weakness. After each force concentration, they immediately rushed forward and closed in on each other fiercely. Chapter 394. Crack. Lu Cheng and Renly both charged at each other with force concentration. In the blink of an eye, they were very close to each other. At this moment, Renly suddenly paused, as if she had turned into a paper person. She swayed backward lightly under the strong wind created by Lu Cheng's high-speed approach. Then she swayed sideways and staggered away from her opponent with wonderful footwork. She avoided the front and dodged to the side, breaking the rhythm of the battle. Bam! She lowered her waist and gathered her force. Taking advantage of the impact of the dance stage eruption, she threw a cannon punch straight at Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng knew why Renly disrupted his rhythm like this. She was afraid of another collision with the internal explosion punch. In that case, although she wouldn't be seriously injured, she would definitely be seriously injured. In a fight of similar strength, this basically meant that the winner was already decided. If it were some of the sixth pin fighters who hadn't mastered the simplified physical invulnerability, 3 internal explosion punches would be enough to kill them directly. Therefore, Renly wouldn't confront Lu Cheng directly when he had enough time to prepare. She would definitely disrupt his rhythm in various ways and make him lose his momentum. This was within Lu Cheng's expectation. He didn't expect to easily give his opponent, a heavenly son of the era, another internal explosion punch. However, he had an alternative way of fighting. Lu Cheng's pupils contracted and merged with his chi, blood, and force. Then they gushed out and poured into his right arm, causing the fascia and muscles there to tighten instead of swelling. The internal explosion punch would leave a vibration that would affect the internal organs. I'll trigger it in other ways. Come on, try my Thunder Roar Zen. Boom! Lu Cheng seized the last moment to visualize the thundercloud shock in his mind. He swung his right arm back and hit Renly's cannon punch. Bam! With a loud explosion, Renly's muscles trembled and the discomfort in her internal organs seemed to be catalyzed. She hurriedly made another force concentration to calm her chi, blood, and dispel the vibration. Lu Cheng was about to swing his arms and use the mighty roar zen of the dance stage consecutive explosion when he suddenly smelled a light fruity fragrance. This was a smell that had never appeared before. The stuffiness in his chest, shortness of breath, and weakness seemed to be affected by the fragrance of the fruit and started to stir again. It made his head hurt slightly, and he felt nauseous. His breathing was slightly tight. Could it be the strange kung fu developed by the Kong Tong school that Ku mentioned? Killing gas? Biochemical martial arts? Renly didn't use it earlier because she wasn't at the inhuman stage and wasn't close to physical invulnerability. She wouldn't be able to produce any obvious effects. Renly saw that Lu Cheng in front of her was full of vigor and fighting spirit. He was tough as if he had walked on the edge of life and death. She couldn't see his real condition. No. I can't fight to the death like this. Renli's vigor was suppressed. A thought flashed through her mind. She wanted to change her way of fighting. After another forced concentration, she leaned forward with her back and raised her right leg. With a ferocious kick, she forced Lu Qing to retreat and found an opening. Then, she shrank back and quickly adjusted her breathing. Using the Dan concentration, she tried her best to calm the discomfort in her body. In such a fierce battle and such a high-intensity collision, Lu Qing had long been unable to hold his breath. After taking a few breaths of the fruit fragrance, his head began to ache in dizziness. His chest was so tight that he couldn't breathe properly. His body was exhausted. Seeing that Renli retreated, he quickly withdrew his qi and blood and rushed to the side with a crack. He rushed out of the place where he had been standing and breathed in the fresh air. If he didn't slow down, he wouldn't be able to hold on. Seeing this, Renli was a little annoyed. She didn't expect Lu Qing to be at the edge of his limit. She could still hold on for 3 or 4 tremor punches. In the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Yenjika vaguely understood what was going on after witnessing her boyfriend's thirst for air. Her heart was in a mess. She was worried, praying, and a little proud at the same time. Qing had forced Renli to use that move. This was probably her trump card to deal with Peng Lian. At this moment, Lu Qing, who had recovered a little, didn't think about anything else. He made a gesture with his hands and outlined the ancient characters in his mind. He shouted in a low voice, "Okay." He jumped out and rushed to Renli. His heart was filled with a strong fighting spirit. Don't be a coward. Just do it. Life and death were nothing. Just do it. Lu Qing gathered his qi and blood and immediately spurted out the residual fragrance. He pulled back his arm and moved forward, fiercely striking with tremors and again. Renli's vigor was taken away, and her negative emotions affected her state. She couldn't avoid Lu Qing's approach. She had to use force concentration to stimulate hidden fragrance again. Bam! Renli's muscles were trembling, and her eyes were redder. She couldn't hold back the rolling qi and blood in her throat. Lu Qing held his breath and stopped breathing. He withdrew his qi and blood and swung his left arm. Bam! 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 He punched Renli again and again, and the muffled sound reverberated outside. It was as if his punches were knocking on the hearts of Lu Chang, Chen Sanqing, Yan Shaoling, Mu Jinyan, and the others, as well as the hearts of everyone in the audience. Bam! 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 Lu Cheng's vision was blurred. He shook his right arm, clenched his fist, and struck with tremors and again. Boom! Renli blocked with her arms. Her qi and blood were shaken again, and the residual effect of internal explosion in her body was completely triggered. Her internal organs seemed to be spasming, her head was dizzy, and blood was flowing out of her throat. Renli's stance suddenly collapsed. Chance! Lu Cheng's eyes widened. He braced himself for the explosive strength in his shoulders and was about to throw a side uppercut at his opponent's temple. But at this time, everything in front of him was blurred, and he was in a trance, like a slow-motion replay of a movie. Have I reached my limit? He saw his fist slowly moving towards Renli's head. He saw his opponent slowly swinging her arm towards his throat as if she was seeking victory in the midst of her defeat. Puff! Puff! Both of their fists were caught by the referee at the same time. At the last moment, Lu Qing seized the opportunity, but his strength was slow and his movement was slow. Renli was in the same situation, but she was better. Therefore, she found the opportunity to hurt both of them. As for Renli, she was able to block Lu Cheng's attack in time. However, after blocking it, she had no strength to fight back and could only wait to be captured. She didn't know whether Lu Qing still had any strength left, so it was natural for her to take the risk. As for Lu Qing, if it weren't for his tenacious will and the momentum he had tempered through life and death situations, he wouldn't have been able to hold on until the end. How could he have any strength left? If this punch didn't hit, there would be nothing left. The referee waited for a while, raised his arm, and announced loudly, "The first round, a draw." This was the first draw in the National University Martial Arts competitions. When the referee shouted, he waved his arm, which made a crisp sound. A strong wind blew away the hidden fragrance lingering around Lu Cheng, making his mind clear. He no longer saw everything in slow motion, including himself. Lu Cheng wasn't upset about the result of this round. On the contrary, he was quite happy. In terms of actual combat strength, Renli was indeed 30% stronger than him. She was also more powerful than Peng Liyun in December last year. If he hadn't suppressed her with his momentum and the momentum of a life-and-death struggle, it would have been reasonable for him to lose. But now, with the experience of this match, I can summarize and improve again. Very good. I've made great progress compared to the last Heavenly Son of the Age battle. I won't lose face again. Lu Cheng turned sideways and waved his fist at Yan Zhika, who was sitting in the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. He waved his fist weakly but in high spirits. Yan Zhika exhaled, her eyes shining. Subconsciously, she gave a thumbs up to Lu Cheng. The audience also exhaled and applauded. They were cheering for this classic battle between Lu Cheng and Renli, and for the martial arts style they had shown. They deserved to be called the Heavenly Son of the Age. Chapter 395. The waves of cheers grew louder and louder, exceeding the previous highest decibels. Lu Cheng panted heavily to relieve the tightness in his chest and the shortness of his breath. He felt his muscles spasming slightly and was obviously lacking in strength. After more than 10 seconds, he managed to recover. His head was no longer in a daze and he could focus on force concentration. Lu Cheng's muscles swelled and his chest wriggled. He opened his throat and spat out a mouthful of unpleasant breath. Then he felt alive again. Even so, he was still weak and short of breath, which required the vigorous metabolism of a strong body to slowly relieve. It was not something that could be done in a short time. Sure enough, I don't have the strength to fight anymore. The last 2 or 3 moves were really squeezed out by my willpower. Lu Cheng's eyes became serious again. He saluted Renli and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Renli had also made a force concentration with great difficulty and calmed down a little. She returned the salute and was about to speak when she suddenly covered her mouth with her hand and spat out a mouthful of bright red blood. She also felt that a few of her teeth were loosening under the vibration and were about to fall off. For mighty ones of Dan's stage, they were full of vigor and vitality. Even if their teeth were knocked off, they could grow back after a while. It was equivalent to changing teeth, so it was not a serious injury. I have to do silent meditation for a few days. Renli pursed her lips and said no more. She turned around and walked towards the stone stairs. Her leg muscles were still trembling and twitching. Her steps were quite light and her body was shaking. Xin Yu, Jiang Kongchan and the others immediately rushed over to support her. Lu Cheng was the same. On the way back, he felt his calves and stomach jumping with every step. He was a little out of breath and had to take deep breaths. Yan Zhika and Kai Zhongming quickly came up and supported him in a flurry. "Awesome. You actually tied." Kai Zhongming gave him a thumbs up with his free hand. "Are you praising me, or mocking me?" Lu Cheng asked with a smile. He was actually stuttering when he spoke, which showed that he was not in good condition. Kai Zhongming laughed. "Of course I'm praising you. I don't know how many gamblers want to go to the rooftop." "No, the rooftop is full of people. The corpses below are piled up to the edge of the rooftop. Most people were betting on who would win or lose. I don't have a choice. Actually, Renli has a higher chance of winning. I forced a draw." Lu Cheng admitted frankly that he was slightly inferior to Renli. Before he could finish his words, Yan Zhika, who was on the other side, interrupted him with both anger and concern. "Stop talking. It's so strenuous. Should we go to the emergency room?" no need. Phew, it's much better than before. I'll be back to normal in a few minutes. After being yelled at, Lu Qing smiled even more happily. Because it was a draw, there was no need to hurry up and not give the opponent a chance to recover. The referee signaled Lin Ke and Chandigua to wait for a while, and then called the staff to clean up the ring. Taking advantage of this gap, Lu Chang, who was in the live stream, lamented in amusement. I didn't expect it to be a draw. That's rare. Isn't it very difficult for the referee to make such a decision? I think it's not a problem to fool a layman like me with the last punch. Chen Sanqing laughed and said, the referee should have considered that both of them would be injured, so it's not a big problem for him to call it a draw. Renli and Lu Cheng have obviously reached their limits. It's not the limit of exhaustion, but the limit of the negative state that makes them unable to continue fighting. In this case, they have a good chance of dodging the opponent's attack by lowering their heads and tilting their necks. Then they just stare at each other and can't make any moves. Huh, you're right. It's obvious that Lu Cheng and Renli's physical condition is getting worse and worse. Lu Chang said thoughtfully, Renli must have suffered 2 internal explosion punches, which left a residual injury. Then she was hit by Lu Cheng's tremor punch with force concentration, which added up to the shock, which completely triggered the negative status. Her situation is easy to understand, but what about Lu Cheng? Inexplicably, his strength is getting weaker and weaker. Chen Sanqing thought carefully for more than 10 seconds, and then signaled the director to replay a few scenes. Stop. Stop. Right here. See? After Renli retreated, Lu Qing didn't chase after her. Instead, he rushed to the edge of the side and gasped for breath as if he had been holding his breath for a long time. You mean in the previous round, Lu Qing didn't breathe much, or he didn't dare to breathe? Lu Chang asked in horror. Yes, the secret arts of the plague sect are all strange and unpredictable. They can harm people without anyone noticing. Chen Sanqing sighed. I can't tell what kind of kung fu it was, but I can guess what happened to Lu Cheng. He must have been hit by the simplified physical invulnerability of the plague sect when he fought with Renli for the second time, which left some residual effects in his body. Renli definitely wouldn't let go of this chance. She must have kept using the unique skills of the plague sect to strengthen the effect. The unique skills of the plague sect seem to work through the respiratory system. How strange. Lu Chang echoed in surprise. If so, why didn't Lu Qing use guerrilla fighting to avoid the area where the smell settled? This is a martial arts competition. It's a fight between 2 people. He can't do whatever he wants. Chen Sanqing shook his head and smiled. Didn't you see? Renli obviously wanted to seize this opportunity to weaken Lu Cheng's combat strength. She kept attacking him with the dance stage, not giving him any chance to escape. From this, we can see that Renli actually has the upper hand during this period. When she feels that she can't hold on anymore and can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, she can take the initiative to force her opponent back and retreat calmly. Lu Qing can't. If he retreated, the situation would be reversed. Of course, Lu Qing would have to grit his teeth and seize this opportunity. If he resorted to guerrilla warfare, Renli could take the opportunity to calm down her qi and blood, heal her injuries, and eliminate the wavering on the spiritual level. Based on the strength they had shown before, she would regain the initiative and increase her chances of winning. Although the outcome is still unknown, at least it would be more beneficial to her. Lu Chang was enlightened. So that's why. Lu Cheng's momentum was amazing. He seemed to have no limit. He just wanted to take you down in one breath, even at the cost of his life. No wonder Renli's confidence was shaken and she took the initiative to retreat. Yeah, at that level, they can't accurately grasp each other's physical condition. They rely on their willpower, momentum, and confidence to influence the enemy. In this respect, Lu Qing is indeed better than Renli. He made up for the slight difference in strength. I'm not saying that Lu Qing is weak. He has only been practicing martial arts for a short time, but he is almost on par with Renli. He lives up to his name as the heavenly son of the age. At this time, on Weibo, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling, Brahman 001, and Unparalleled Dragon King, all tagged, all-knowing man in ganghood. I just want to laugh. Ha, ha. Cover your mouth and run away. I feel more and more that you have the potential to be a toxic healer. It's time to take over sect leader He's position, dog emoji. After practicing martial arts for a year and a half, he tied with Renli. If this is not the heavenly son of the age, what is? I'm waiting for you to post a long Weibo. Let's see how you are going to pester us. Reading these posts, all-knowing man in ganghood breathed heavily. Suddenly, he grabbed the cup on the table and threw it out with force. Bang! The cup hit the corner of the wall and broke into pieces. Under Superstitious Thoughts Are Not's previous prediction, many people came to watch. I always feel that you have given the capital a good dose of toxic healer this time. Without Lu Cheng's rebounding of the curse, you have indeed made full use of your strength. I have high hopes for you. Don't say that. Sect leader He predicted that Songqing University's substitutes were weak and would lose as a whole. Isn't it not time for it to come true? After that, I went to add 100 yuan to Songqing University's win. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Geezer sure glanced at Lu Cheng and clicked his tongue. Not bad. You can fight to this extent. Let's see how that old devil Qi Ling praises her disciple in front of me. Old devil. Lu Cheng recovered a lot. The corner of his mouth twitched and said, Senior Qi should be younger than you, master, right? She looked to be in her early 50s. Younger than me. Geezer sure snorted. But she doesn't behave like an old woman. She even calls herself Sister Qi in front of the younger generation. Isn't it normal for women to behave like this? Lu Cheng didn't quite understand his master. He went back to his seat and took a sip of the sedative and brain-invigorating fluid. Senior Qi was a famous beauty in the martial arts circle. She was also very knowledgeable and could draw. The girl lowered her voice and gossiped. Then she complained, why didn't you care about yourself at all? Why did you have to fight with Renli like that? She knew that Lu Cheng must have judged the situation before doing so, but she still couldn't help nagging. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and smiled. If I had used other moves or fighting methods, I might have been able to reduce the influence of Renli's unique skill of the plague sect. But it was continuous and couldn't be completely blocked. The weakening speed would slow down, but it would be difficult to completely stop. When I was weakening little by little, I wouldn't have used Thunder Roar Zen to increase the influence of Renli and weaken her as well. Then I wouldn't have been able to turn the situation around. While they were talking, the referee checked the field and waved to Chindigua and Lin Quebec. Lin K had already been standing at the edge of the seats. Seeing that, he leaned over and bumped fists with Lu Cheng and the others one by one. Then he strode toward the stone stairs. His face was calm and his eyes were deep with hidden flames. Whether or not he could defeat the capital depended on his next battle with Chindigua. The audience also stopped reminiscing about the wonderful battle and turned their attention back to the arena. Chindigua, go for it. The supporters of the Capital College Martial Arts Club cheered in an organized manner. The others were shouting in bits and pieces. Songqing University, go for it. Lin K, go for it. Of the two heavenly sons of the age who had contributed to the fierce battle, one of them would eventually stay in the semi-finals. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.